My name is Rahul Narvekar, and as she just said, I specialize in making people lazy. I run an online shop called IndianRoots.com. This is my third venture as an entrepreneur. In 1999, with 5 friends, I had set up an interactive television channel called Channel Oxygen in Bombay. We started with about 5 lakhs capital, took it to about 2 crores revenue, were crazily successful, and then we bombed completely. So we went from local trains to large cars and then back to local trains. Nice journey for 2 years. Then I moved from Bombay to Delhi, which I am told technically is called the reverse commute because typically people go from Delhi to Bombay to make a success, mostly in Bollywood or business, and I did the reverse thanks to my wife. Started from scratch again and got into the mall retail real estate industry. Worked as a professional for about 8 years, then became an entrepreneur again and started on a .com venture called fashionandyou.com. Did very well for some time. Raised about $48 million from VCs and PEs, which I am told is a sign of success. Then due to certain personal reasons, moved on and have started a new venture, which is Indian Roots in partnership with NDTV. So I constantly meet a lot of people who tell me, you are now an entrepreneur. And sometimes I actually have to struggle to think of the spelling, the correct spelling of an entrepreneur. And they keep looking at me as if I'm somebody different. I keep hearing from a lot of young people that as an entrepreneur, you're probably wired differently. Did you fall down when you were a kid? Something, you're different. And when I look back, I just turned 41 2 days back. So when you hit that number, you start thinking. And actually, if you look at it, what is it that differentiates people who are labeled as entrepreneurs with people who do regular day jobs? So when I go back and I look at people who inspired me growing up in Bombay, and the first person, of course, is Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. So let's take a little recap of his career. I'm taking a little creative license here. So Dhirubhai, as he was known, was born in a very small town in Gujarat, was not very well in studies, and saw an opportunity where one of his relatives was working in an Arab country. So he got on a ship, went there, and started working with the oil company as an executive. But on the sidelines, he would go in the markets of that city and look at all the traders who would do what is now called spot trading. Started dabbling in it a bit. Then suddenly, the country which was next to the country in which Dhirubhai was residing had a shortage of coins. And this country started wondering, why is it that all our coins are diminishing? So they investigated and they discovered that a couple of traders from the neighboring country, one of which was Dhirubhai, were actually going to this country, getting all the coins in, melting them, and selling them. Because what they discovered, that the value of the metal of the coin was much more than the value of the currency. They're making a lot of money. It was not strictly legal, illegal, it was a gray area. The government put a stop to it. So then Dhirubhai decided to focus on his job. He was about to be promoted in a very senior position with a flat and a car and all. So he was getting into what is known as a comfort zone, did some introspection and decided he did not want to get comfortable. So he chucked all of that and came back to India, much to the horror of his Indian parents, and said, I want to be a businessman. I want to be an entrepreneur. And he started by trading in cloth. So he would actually go to the suppliers, pick up stuff literally on his shoulders, come back to Bombay and sell it. And that is the time when he saw another opportunity, much like the coin thing, where there was a new kind of a silk, which was a polyester, form of polyester. He got it, he started selling, but he was not doing that well. So then he sat down and he said, what have I learned from my journey working for an oil company? And he discovered that they owned the whole piece. So he said, okay, I will do what is technically in management called backward integration. I want to own the factory which manufactures this, and I also want to own the store which sells it. In that period in India, people were willing to pay a little extra for what is known as exclusivity, which is design. So like now I'm discovering in my venture, a lady would be rather dead than be seen in an outfit which another lady is wearing in the same room. That time, a lot of people were in India were doing that. So Dhirubhai said, I want a competitive advantage. He went to a school called National Institute of Design, which is in Ahmedabad. And NID is the foremost design institute of India. Unfortunately, in that period, the students out there were not getting very good jobs. So Dhirubhai went and literally hired the entire class and said, okay, come, this is nice studio. Focus on what you know best, which is design. What I will commit to you that each individual design that you do, an X amount of cloth will get produced. So, for example, they were producing about, say, 500 meters of a single design, cutting it and sending it across India to various parts. What that ensured was that, suppose it's come to Coimbatore, there's a limited supply of a particular design available in Coimbatore. So, a lot of people were willing to pay a premium for that design. Then he looked at the whole piece and said, okay, what is it that I need to do to optimize my business? And okay, this is a guy who's not an MBA, he's not a business grad, he was very good at people skills and he was very good at thinking. So he hired the best batch of chartered accountants, put them in a room and said, I don't want to pay tax legally. Go figure. And for the longest time, Reliance as a company was paying either zero or very, very low taxes. He did the same thing with engineers, hired the best lot and said, okay, I want the best manufacturing facility in the world. And the facility that Reliance put up was the best in class. At that point, if the entire production capability for polyester in the country was, say, 1,000 tons, Dhirubhai decided to set up a factory whose output was more than the total production capacity of the entire country. And people were horrified. Okay, how will he make money? But he saw something which a lot of people at that point did not see. And if you look at his career, at every stage of the business, whenever he was getting comfortable, he broke that mold and got out of his comfort zone. So he started with polyesters, got into manufacturing, design, set up an ad agency which is called Mudra, which I think is right now number 3 in the country. He did it by hiring the best brains in the business, giving them a very clear objective, and giving them enough creative space to grow. Next one, please. Okay, I'm sure I don't need to introduce this gentleman. I'm sure a lot of you know, but for some of you don't know, this gentleman's actual name is Shivaji Rao Gaikwad. Now, if you look at it technically, just before he became an actor, if you were to talk of a gentleman whose name is Shivaji Rao Gaikwad, who's a Maharashtrian in Karnataka, who's a conductor on a state-run bus, and if I would tell you that this guy would be the biggest star ever, would anybody have imagined it? But look at where he went. If you ask me, typically he doesn't have the looks. He didn't have the looks at that point. He invented that entire style. He had a very secure job at that point in India. If you had a government job, I think your parents would kill you if you think of quitting that, right? But what Rajnikant did, he got out of his comfort zone, was shameless enough to go and chase directors and ask for work, and started off as a villain, okay, which is, if you want to be a superstar as a hero, I think that's the wrong path to take, technically. But again, he got in, and I think at that point, a lot of people, and I've read some of his books, who have said that they advised him that, you don't have it in you to be a star. You have this weakness, that weakness. He did not focus on any of his weaknesses. He only focused on his one strength, which was his style, right? The cigarette and all of that. And that signature style has made him what he is today. So, whenever you're looking at becoming an entrepreneur, apart from, there is no academy which will teach you to do that. What you need to do is do 2 things. One is what Dhirubhai did, get out of your comfort zone. So today when you're passing out of colleges or working anywhere, it's the easiest thing to do, to go get a job in a brand name corporate, gets you a nice business card, gives you a nice chunk salary, gets you good eligible male or female to get married, maybe good dowry. Over a period of time, you get into what is called a rut. And then it becomes increasingly difficult for you to get out of that comfort zone. Because you have EMIs to pay for your car, you have to take care of your social status. But the most difficult part which I discovered, so when I started fashionindyou.com in 2009, This was immediately after 2008, and my generation had seen the first recession ever in India. You know, this was the time when the general atmosphere was of fear, because people were getting laid off, there were not enough jobs in the economy, and nobody could see the light at the end of the tunnel. At that point, I was working for a very large corporate on a cushy chair, and I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I live in a city called Delhi. So when we started, my job was to go to various brands and ask them to give me some stuff. And I remember when I went and I had called up a person I knew very well. I went and I was sitting in his reception and I was waiting and I was waiting. And then that became the trend for the next 7, 8 months. I used to wait typically for 5.5 hours in people's receptions. So I got out of my comfort zone, but I had to do something which I was inspired by Rajnikant, which I was shameless. I would just wait, I would go and tell them, please give me your product, I want to put it on my site. And I remember a few of my younger colleagues would really bristle and say, sir, how can you be so shameless? And I would quote Mr. Rajnikant at that time, that he was shameless enough to keep persistently following up. And I used to always tell my team, there will be a time when, this will change. And the day we raised the first $8 million round, that time changed. Okay, I got out of that comfort zone again. I started Indian Roots, and I'm being shameless again to plug my product again. Believe me, it gives you a different kind of a high. If you know it in your heart, and I think Ramesh was talking earlier in the day about being a bumblebee, when everybody tells you that technically it cannot be done, and when you go ahead and do it, the kind of high it gives you. As an entrepreneur, you might not make as much money as you might as a professional. The probability of you becoming another Facebook or Zynga or Foursquare are remote. But even in your own thing, if you're doing your own thing, the kind of satisfaction that it gives you, the kind of, peace or the aura that you gives you within is unparalleled. So when I look at these two gentlemen, the third picture I have is Rian, that's my son, he's 8 years old. And I keep telling him these two mantras, that get out of your comfort zone, be shameless, and good things will happen to you. And that's all it takes to be an entrepreneur. You don't need capital in today's day and time. If you have a good idea, if you have a good team, more than enough people will fund you. All you need to, a lot of kids come to say, I want to do a business, but I'll do it once, I've done an X amount of days as a job, I'll save up some corpus, my wife will work, and then I can do the rest. All that is nonsense. All you need is that desire to be an entrepreneur, and just two things. Get out of your comfort zone, be shameless, and you can do it. Thank you.